Hi, everyone. Happy Monday. Um, just want to go over a few things before we get started. So, as we all know, if you've been following our series, we like to make this interactive. It's a nice conversation. So, there is a chat on your right. If you have any questions during this presentation, feel free to type them in the chat and we'll try to address every question as it comes through. We'll also potentially be having some polls and handouts, which you'll also see to the right of your screen. Now, today's session is one of the hottest topics in fashion right now. So it is sustainability. And what's really pushing the sustainability topic is Gen Z. So with Gen Z, we have 75% of Generation Z saying they value sustainability over brand names when making purchasing decisions. That's up from 71% of millennials and 65% of baby boomers. They also have a 62% of Gen Z are telling us that purchasing sustainable, slow fashion is more important to them than fast fashion. So that's the majority of our up and coming consumers are really driving home the point that sustainability is important to them. Now, here with us today, I have Gabriela Weinkauf. So, Gabby has extensive experience in the fashion industry. So, over 2 decades in the fashion industry, she's worked everywhere from sewing to design to sourcing, manufacturing. She has pattern making experience out of Puerto Rico, a BA in management, fashion retails, and also an MFA in fashion from AAU. She's currently working on a PhD for apparel creation and technology. And outside of just her extensive educational experience, she's co founder of Studious Monday, a company whose mission is simple but compelling, and that's to create timeless fashion that empowers individuals while making a minimal impact on our planet. Their vision goes beyond clothing. It's about community, craftsmanship, and sustainability. So, hi, Gabby, and thank you for being with us.
Hi. So I want to start. There are a few things that I would love that everyone here have in mind. One of them is sustainability right now is, let's say, for many companies is an option, but is becoming an issue for all the brands, from big brands, small brands, luxury brands, and is going to become the default for everyone. That is the future. So there's a lot of elements that are playing around, and we need to figure out what really works for your specific brand and company, because not all these possible future. I like that phrase because we need to plan for the future. All those possible futures in the fashion industry not necessarily going to be applying to us. So we need to prepare, create a plan that involve every single aspect that you think is your values as a company, what really makes sense to you, attached to social media marketing and information value. That's the way we need to wrap all this and let it know people, because people wants to know what are you
Great.
doing.
And Gabby, I love how you said that we have to figure out what works for you, because what works for one company may not work for the other. And when you're talking about big brands, they're making changes and steps towards becoming more sustainable. I know Walmart, for example, one of the biggest retailers in the world, they're actually building manufacturing out of Georgia to try to have more near shore manufacturing, which I know a lot of other big brands are doing near shore manufacturing to reduce their carbon footprint. But aside from that, can you share some insights on the upcoming legislation related to sustainability that our fashion and luxury retailers should be aware of? and how this may impact their particular sourcing and manufacturing strategies?
Yes, there is multiple things. I always think we need to think first in your county, your city, then in your state, and then the country, and then your region, and then globally. There are a couple things that's happening that affecting everyone. For example, one at the federal level is a Uyghur people in China. That is something that really affecting everyone because these people produce a lot of cotton, and that's a high quality cotton. And so many companies sometimes buy and they don't know that came from there. So that is a part that many companies are implementing, uh, tracking their raw material. And that also is part of the legislation. They want that every single company know where their cottons come from, who you buying from, who is these people that you are um, doing business with, because it's basically slavery force that you've been using. That is one of them. There's in Germany, there's one called Diligent Act. That one is very interesting because that one is go further. That one go from the headquarters all the way to supply. Like that one is go every single aspect that you may have, and you have to comply for that. I do believe that one it focused more on the human right aspect, but I think that one is going to be ended up in the European Union, the Parliament. So that will be implemented to everyone. Another one very interested to me is the France one. In France, there's one which is mandatory climate change, which basically is reducing the carbon print in the clothes. And they are really, really putting the work into a big company. And now I think it's in 2024, 2025, the same information and the same law is going to apply to a small companies. So that is about.
So with that, you're saying for
Go ahead.
in France, they're requiring labeling on the garments, so where they came from and to verify that it's sustainable. Is that correct? No.
Yes. And also the carbon print. All that they're requesting
So
on that.
with
In
that
America,
though,
we have.
it seems like Europe's kind of leading the way for the sustainability acts. So I'd imagine that the U.S. is going to be following suit shortly. Can you shed some light on your opinion if that's happening, and if there is some legislation throughout the U.S., whether it be statewide or nationwide, for sustainable legislation?
Yes, we do have a couple places that we can look in for this kind of legislation. One of those places is New York. You guys in New York have the Sustainability Act. That's still in the process, but that is going to be impacting the whole market up there. Also, the California Act, the Protection Act. That one is very interesting because in California is one of those states that is allowed to hire undocumented employees. That one is a little bit weird because that one also affect the garment production, also the wage. So it's more complex, but that one is coming, and that one is specifically going to affect the price of the labor. If the Californian price of the labor go up, all the production to the United States, the labor itself is going up. So that is part of that. Besides all the law that they have environmental in general, like the water usage in California, and also the production. Now, some people sometimes cannot see so much about the South, but for example, in Alabama, they start working on some legislation about the treatment of the water and for the production of cotton. So all these little things is very important. That's the reason we need to check our local legislation that we're doing up there to see what is coming.
And then, so if anyone does use a manufacturer in Europe, Asia, the US, I think it's really important for us to talk to the manufacturing to make sure that they are having sustainable practices in case in certain states in the US that's going to be required for your supply chain and your labeling. Would you agree?
Yes, I think it's going to be in the best interest to any company to investigate a company itself. Check who is the owner, what is the value of these people, what these people are doing, who are their previous clients. Certification, that's a big one. What kind of certification
When you
they
say
have?
certification, what are you exactly talking about?
When I'm talking about certification, this is a one thing that is not fit for all because many countries have different law. So, for example, many years ago, I read a book called The Black Label, the Book of the Black Label. That book was about all the companies for in America who are complying with the law of their specific country. But for us, it's a horrible because they're not really compliant. Like, for example, the water treatment. Many countries, like in Bangladesh and in China, they don't comply with the water treatment. So, but for them, they're complying. So you're always going to ask the extra point. Okay, I know that you follow this and this and this and this in this country, but what else are you doing to make sure that the chemicals that you put in this process not ended up in the ocean? So those little things you need to do a little bit more investigation depending on the country. Now, in the United States, you do have the USDA, you do have the Department of Commerce. There are different kind of certification they ask. That fair label, also, you can check on the CFDA. They do have at least companies that comply with many different kind of certifications. So it's just depending of. But yes, there's places you can.
That's really fascinating too. That what one country's standards it might differ from another. So if you are using manufacturers outside of the U.S., just to be aware what their standards are and how that relates to our U.S. standards. Another, as you're talking to me about tracking and being really transparent with your supply chain, one thing that came to my mind is a few fabric vendors that we use in the bespoke garment industry, particularly Dorme. I know that they have certain fabrics that it's completely transparent in how their fabrics were made, so you can track it from what country the sheep was in, where the wool was processed, and all of that. So that's really interesting technology that certain fabric mills and vendors are bringing to the forefront, really so that they can share sustainable practices with us. And if you're selling bespoke tailored clothing, I would encourage you to check from your current fabric vendors if they offer something similar. Now, I was walking down Madison Avenue in New York the other week, and I saw this great sign outside of a great store. And if you're familiar with Madison Avenue, it's a very high-end posh street in New York City. So you have all the big brands are going to be on this street. And outside of this really swanky retail store, there was a sign that said, "Consciously made slow fashion." So, Gabby, can you talk to the group what is slow fashion and why would a retailer be marketing that their products adhere to the slow fashion guidelines?
Okay, so we need to understand that the default for fashion in general always has been slow fashion. It's just recently that we moved from slow fashion to fast fashion. It's not sustainable, it's not normal, it's not the default for humans. That before we do have 4 seasons, before the 1940 something, we do have only 2 seasons. Then after the 40 something, we have 4 seasons and so on. So slow fashion is more to be aware and approach the fashion in a more careful way. So it's considering the whole process, is more careful, is timeless, is focused on pieces that are elegant, pieces that are think through, that you think how the person will use this piece for years and years, how this piece is going to be crafted. You think about the high quality of this product, and you think through the whole design so that way it lasts a life. That's the reason you will have people um, that have pieces for many years and they still can use it because the quality, the craftsmanship, the time, the material has been worked to last. And this is not without trends. It's timeless pieces.
So you say timeless pieces, quality, caring for decades. I'm thinking generational clothing. So with that, and something that we are advocates for at least the garments that come out of our shop, is this is a generational piece that you could pass down to your son, your daughter. It's not going to be like a type of garment that you go to the mall and in 2 weeks it's falling apart at the seams because of the quality of material or just how it was put together. So something that you are buying and then you're throwing out in a month because of the quality, that would be considered something like fast fashion, correct?
Yes. Yes, and if any of you guys go to TikTok and Google all money, you will see all these young Gen Z trying to get those pieces that are timeless. The pieces of our grandparents, pieces that they emulate quality, that show the wealth. So these kiddos now, they try to get into that kind of fashion, let's say that. So I find that very fascinating that many other kids nowadays, they try to do that kind of style. And I have one student that he show up with some pieces of his grandpa. It shocked me see this 17-year-old kiddo wearing those kind of pieces. So that make me think generational wealth, make me think all money, make me think quality. So that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's complete contrast to fast fashion, which those are your brands that every couple weeks they're putting out new products to keep up with the trends. One fact, and we talked about making sure the quality, the materials that you're using for your garments are of high quality and ethically sourced. This stat blew my mind when I was researching this topic. For fast fashion, on average, you can have up to 64% of those fabrics being made from plastic. So that just blew my mind, especially when we talk about now is the first time in history that we've seen plastic particles in our blood and in our lungs. We're wearing it.
Yes, we wear it and eat it because microplastic came from those garments. So every time that you wash those garments, those pieces of plastic rubbing each other, because it's not only the fabric, it's also in the thread. So you get the thread that is a polyester thread, plus the fabric is a polyester. So they're rubbing each other and they break it down in small pieces and ended up in the fresh water, ended up in the ocean. And we eat food from the ocean. So we start ended up eating plastic ourselves. So this situation is one of the few situations that many people in the manufacturing industry are not taking jobs with polyester. Many companies right now are refusing to make polyester products. We don't work with any kind of polyester products. We only work with natural material.
And when we're talking about high quality fabrics, not plastics, making sure that your workers are paid a living wage, so that ethical, I guess just making sure everyone's not getting taken advantage of. When that's now getting brought to light in the news, in reports, it's more accessible. Like you mentioned on TikTok, we have famous TikTokers talking about slow fashion movement, nearshore manufacturing. As a whole, how do you see the fashion industry's perception of sustainability just evolving in recent years? And aside from what we've already talked about with Gen Z, what other consumer preferences have been observed or changed as a result?
Consumers right now, the big majority of consumer is going to, well, it is millennial and Gen Z now. So I've been reading a lot about it and how all this stuff can be. I think the pandemic wake up many people and make sure that every people put attention to the well-being of everyone. Personally, I think there's different area that um, companies can focus. One of them is labor. Labor, being fair labor is very important. Especially that we are not in an industry that is mass produced. We are in very specific market, and as many of the clients already have a perception that they're paying for a product, but they know that it's not only the product. They buy in experience, they buy in quality. So they expecting the same kind of care when they do that kind of transaction be applied to the company and be applied to the employees. So fair wages, I know that sounds like big word, but is a must in this kind of industry. Be fair to your employees.
And you did mention, and I think most of us attending here today, we do work in more of a made-to-order, custom, or small batch ready-to-wear. So when you are selling a product like that, and especially that made-to-order model, I've seen that that's been just exploding the past few years. That all
Mhm.
helps with being sustainable practices, correct?
Yes, because we are not in mass production. We are basically making every single item for a person. So they know nobody will have the same item that they have. They know it's made for their body. So they know that there is a time put on their products. So what we can use for that experience is basically marketing the experience. Let them know people what we can do for them. Let them know how we sourcing material. Let them know how we treat our employees. Let them know how we comply to law and how we care. Um, and like I said at the beginning, there's a bunch of stuff, but the reality is not all then we apply to you. For example, we do accessories here. I don't use I only use leather, real leather. I don't use uh, fox leather or anything about nature. And I did that because I seen how can be sourced. I seen how real leather can impact the environment. So think about all that, and then when you have the conversations with your clients, let them know what are you doing. Let them know. Educate
And
them.
then you mentioned that you use leather. Can you provide maybe some examples of successful collaborations with more of an ethically sourced material to contribute to the success and the sustainability of a luxury brand?
Yes, there's many example. Um, I remember in 2016 was not really taking, and there was a huge debate when Karl Lagerfeld came out and say, "I'm not going to use fake leather because it's polyester. I'm not going to use mushroom leather because it's too costly. I will not use mango leather because the mango need water and we need a lot of water. Why we cannot still using leather? Because anyway, people still consuming beef. Still people consuming the animal. Let's use the whole animal completely." And I do agree with that. As long as we're still consuming those kind of animals, we need to use the whole pieces of the animal. Many brands that understand this is, for example, Gabriela Hertz. She's from I think
Mm-hmm.
Uruguay, and they use the whole thing, the whole animal, because she knows that every single part of the animal can be used. Also, they use TPA as a type of plastic packaging that can be used for many stuff like it's plastic. Bulgari, it worked a lot about the carbon prints for them, the material sourcings. You can go to the website, you can see where they're sourcing everything. They do use energy, sustainable, I mean, solar panels. And they also have a fund for deforestation. That's Burberry. For example, Stella McCartney, she's a well-known in this kind of environment, media and stuff. So she always looking for the next um, new material that can be used. I get surprised that Chanel and Dior, they had the information up there. They have all information what they're doing. They have pledged that by 2025, 95% of the products they're going to be making, it have to be organic. It have to be for now. So we do the advantage that many of the fabrics that we use are natural: wool, silk, cotton. We do have that advantage. The main thing that we need to focus is how can we put that information in a way that people can see it and understand how we make things and why our price is very specific, what we are different, what we're doing different in this kind of case.
So I think that's a point to drive home, especially since the majority of our audience, they do, at least part of their product line is custom clothing. So as a custom clothier, help me out here. So there are ways that they're, just by nature of that industry, they're sustainable. So part of that is that everything is made to order, so you don't have all that waste. Typically, you're working with high-end wools, or like you mentioned, cashmeres, silks. That's all ethically sustainable product. You can make sure that your manufacturer has ethical living wages, and they're practicing sustainable methods through manufacturing. What else can we do? Generational clothing, if it's a high end manufacturing that you could pass it down, it's quality made, can last for years. Are there any other selling points or points of conversation for a custom clothier that we could start having with our end consumer?
Yes, there's many. For example, besides promoting what you're doing, check certifications. There are some certifications that you can get and put on your website and put it in your Instagram that show that you are doing the right thing. That's one thing. Second thing is educating your client. How? Okay, Gabby, we going to do some handbag. Do you have someone? Yes, I know someone in Brazil. Let's go there. Let's make information. Let's put the information. Let's show the people where their leather came from and how it's become this, how these leather impact people. And that's in that area. Let's say that you make a collaboration, because that's another area that we can do. We can have collaborations with very specific community. Let's say that you live in Arizona and you want to make some kind of collaborations with Native American. Go there, talk to them, see if they want to collaborate with you. You know, show how your openness, show that you are integrated in a society, that you want to do better. Because that's a part that I think Gen Z and millennials have issues with many big brands. And we have the blessings that we are no huge brand. Okay. So showing that kind of willingness and that kind of openness, it get attention because people want to feel good, not only physically, mentally, and emotionally, knowing that they're buying your products, that is not only for the pleasure, they're making a change in other people that may know as fortunate than them. So that
Great.
kind of
So,
way.
I mean, what I'm hearing from you is being transparent about your supply chain. So, if you are using local source materials or manufacturing, that you're supporting local workers, local businesses. That also you have less of a carbon footprint just by you're not flying from another country to make the product. We're reducing waste through an MTO or custom made orders. Ethically,
Mhm.
you're producing garments. So check with your manufacturer to make sure that they're paying living wages. And then the materials that we're selecting, that's also important to make sure that we're maintaining those sustainability standards.
Yes, that's mainly. And even though I have done, for example, products that are zero waste, basically it's just a piece of fabric, and we find a way to use the whole fabric to create some jackets, some garments. Also, I have created jackets and pieces from the remaining pieces, serging and put it together. And there is a market for that. There is people who really like that kind of stuff. Like I know in California, when I was living in San Francisco, there is a lot of people paying for those kind of products, and they know it's one of a kind. I know a person who does only that, and she does label her products. She put numbers. So every single person who buy their product, she know who it is. So little things like this can make a big difference for
And
us.
you mentioned that, and I know the American Heritage brand Filson, they do a similar thing, that they upcycle their bags. So if you have a vintage bag, you can send it back to Filson. They'll repair it, put it on their website, and I mean, again, one of a kind bags they sell for like 4 times as much as their others, and
Yeah.
they sell out as soon as you put them on the website.
Yeah. Yeah, and another aspect also that is, I think is going to be a huge business opportunity for us in general is repair products. I know, for example, Coach does that. They repair your own products, and if they cannot repair, they can create new products out of that fabric, that leather good. That's another way. Also, there is, I seen a couple people using the old inventory. If you do have inventory or pieces, redesign those pieces and reuse those fabrics and create a new products. I remember a couple years ago in UK, Burberry came out in a huge situation because they were burning the products that were not able to sell.
Wow. Yeah, that is
Yeah,
not
and
good.
that is a horrible PR.
And you know, Gabby, we're having this incredible talk on sustainability, especially when we talked about microplastics. And I have my iced coffee here in a plastic container, so I need to be more cognizant of my coffee order and my vendors. But I think that is a lot of food for thought for our listeners here today. If anyone has any questions or wants more information about especially how your brand can just move towards becoming more sustainable, or how to market the sustainability, whether it's through social media, email campaign, just your general conversations with customers, Gabby and I are here and we can provide some insights on that. So feel free to email me, alex@adrianjules.com, and I can certainly put you in touch with Gabby one-on-one, or we'll do our best as a team to answer any questions you guys may have. But again, Gabby, thank you. This was an incredible topic. Again, one of the hottest topics in fashion right now, and we really appreciate you providing your insight on this.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for giving me the opportunity to talk to you guys and hear about this, because I think people are confusing things about this. In the end, we're a business, and it have to make business sense. Sustainability is something that business like us can thrive, and I know that this is going to be the next future for us. So it's better for us to jump in now, have a plan, and surf.
Great. Thank you, guys. Everyone have a great rest of the week, and let's make some headway towards sustainability. Bye, guys.
Okay, bye.